Buddhāvataṃsaka Sutra. Book 38. Detachment from the World. Video 8. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of way of adornment. Without leaving the realm of desire, they enter the meditations, liberations, and trances of the realm of form and formlessness, yet they are not thereby born in those realms. This is their first way of adornment. Their knowledge appears to enter the path of personally liberated saints, yet they do not take emancipation by this route. This is their second way of adornment. Their knowledge appears to enter the path of individual illumination, yet they do not cease to generate great compassion. This is their third way of adornment. Though they have human and celestial retinues surrounding them, hundreds and thousands of concubines and troops of singers and dancers, they never for a moment leave meditation, liberation, and concentration. This is their fourth way of adornment. They take part in amusements and experience pleasure and happiness with all sentient beings, but they never for a moment leave the concentration of equanimity of enlightening beings. This is their fifth way of adornment. They have already transcended all worlds and have no attachment to anything, yet they do not abandon efforts to liberate sentient beings. This is their sixth way of adornment. They live by the right path, right knowledge, and right insight, yet they can appear to enter false paths, without taking them to be true or pure, to cause the sentient beings involved in them to abandon false principles. This is their seventh way of adornment. They always maintain the Buddha's pure precepts, and their thoughts, words, and deeds are faultless, but because they want to edify moral sentient beings, they appear to perform the acts of ordinary ignorant people. Though they are already filled with pure virtues and abide in the course of enlightening beings, yet they appear to live in such realms as hells, animality, ghosthood, and in difficulty and poverty, in order to enable the beings therein to gain liberation. Really, the enlightening beings are not born in those states. This is their eighth way of adornment. Without being taught by another, they attain unhindered intellect and the light of knowledge, are able to illumine and understand all Buddha teachings, are sustained by the spiritual power of all Buddhas, are one and the same body of reality with all Buddhas, accomplish all incorruptible mystic states of clarity and purity of great people, abide in all equal vehicles of liberation, are aware of all spheres of Buddhahood, are endowed with the light of all worldly knowledge, and clearly see all realms of sentient beings. They are able to be truth-knowing teachers for sentient beings, yet they make the appearance of ceaseless search for truth. Though they actually are unexcelled teachers of sentient beings, they show respect to preceptors and religious mentors, because great enlightening beings, by skillful expedients, abide in the path of enlightening beings, yet manifest whatever is necessary. This is their ninth way of adornment. Their roots of goodness are sufficient, their practices are completed. They are coronated by all Buddhas together and reach the furthest extent of mastery of all the teachings, their heads crowned with the turban of the state of non-obstruction. Their bodies reach all worlds, and everywhere they show the body of Buddha that has no resistance. Masters of the teachings, they attain supreme fulfillment and turn the unimpeded pure wheel of teaching. They have already accomplished all manner of freedom of enlightening beings, but for the sake of sentient beings they appear to be born in all lands. They are in the same realm as all Buddhas, yet they do not abandon the practices of enlightening beings, do not give up the principles of enlightening beings, do not neglect the works of enlightening beings, do not leave the path of enlightening beings, do not slacken the conduct of enlightening beings, do not cut off the graspings of enlightening beings, do not cease the skillful methods of enlightening beings. Do not stop doing the tasks of enlightening beings. Do not tire of the developmental activities of enlightening beings. Do not put an end to the sustaining power of enlightening beings. Why? Because enlightening beings want to quickly realize unexcelled, complete perfect enlightenment. So they examine the ways of access to omniscience and cultivate the practices of enlightening beings unceasingly. This is their 10th way of adornment. Based on these principles, enlightening beings can attain the supreme way of great adornment of Buddhas. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of feet, the feet of discipline, fulfilling all higher aspirations. The feet of energy, assembling all elements of enlightenment without regressing. The feet of spiritual knowledge, gladdening all sentient beings according to their desires. The feet of psychic powers, going to all Buddha lands without leaving one Buddha land. The feet of determination, seeking all higher laws. The feet of resolute commitment, fulfilling all their tasks. The feet of accord, not opposing the teachings of all the honorable. The feet of delight in truth, tirelessly hearing and holding all teachings spoken by Buddhas. The feet of reign of teaching, lecturing to the masses without timidity. The feet of cultivation, getting rid of all evils. Based on these, enlightening beings can attain the supreme feet of Buddhas, which can reach all worlds in one step. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of hands, hands of deep faith, wholeheartedly accepting and ultimately taking up the teaching of Buddhas. Hands of giving, satisfying all those who seek, according to their desires. Hands of initiating greetings, extending their right palm to welcome and lead. Hands of honoring Buddhas, tirelessly gathering blessings and virtues. Hands of learning and skillfulness, cutting off the doubts of all sentient beings. Hands of fostering transcendence of the triple world, extending them to sentient beings and extricating them from the mire of craving. Hands of settlement on the other shore, saving drowning sentient beings from the 4 torrents. Hands of generosity with right teaching, revealing all sublime principles. Hands of skillful use of philosophies, quelling diseases of body and mind with the medicine of knowledge and wisdom. Hands always holding jewels of knowledge, unfolding the light of truth to obliterate the darkness of afflictions. These are the 10. Based on these, enlightening beings can acquire the supreme hands of Buddhas, covering all worlds in the 10 directions. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of guts, guts free from deception, their hearts being pure. Guts free from falsehood, being honest by nature. Non-prevaricating guts, having no crookedness. Non-swindling guts, having no greed for anything. Guts cutting off afflictions, being full of wisdom. Pure-minded guts, being free from all evils. Guts examining food and drink, remembering reality. Guts observing non-creation, being aware of interdependent origination. Guts aware of all ways of emancipation, fully developing the will. Guts rid of the defilement of all extreme views, enabling all sentient beings to enter into the guts of Buddha. These are the 10. Based on these, enlightening beings can acquire the supreme, vast guts of Buddhas able to contain all sentient beings. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of internal organs. Perpetuating the seed of Buddhas is an organ of enlightening beings, manifesting the immeasurable spiritual power of the Buddha teaching. Causing the seed of the teaching to grow is an organ of enlightening beings, generating the immense light of knowledge. Preserving the seed of the spiritual community is an organ of enlightening beings, enabling them to gain access to the irreversible wheel of teaching. Awakening those who are rightly stabilized is an organ of enlightening beings, instantly adapting to the time. Fully developing unstable sentient beings is an organ of enlightening beings, producing continuity of causal basis. Conceiving compassion for wrongly stabilized sentient beings is an organ of enlightening beings, causing thorough development of causal basis for the future. Fulfilling the indestructible basis of the 10 powers of Buddhas is an organ of enlightening beings, with unopposable roots of goodness that conquer the armies of demons. The supremely fearless lion's roar is an organ of enlightening beings, gladdening all sentient beings. Attaining the 18 unique qualities of Buddhas is an organ of enlightening beings, with knowledge penetrating everywhere. Knowing all sentient beings, all lands, all things, and all Buddhas is an organ of enlightening beings, clearly seeing all in a single instant. These are the 10. Based on these, enlightening beings can attain the indestructible internal organs of great knowledge with supreme virtues of Buddhas. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of heart: a heart of diligence, fulfilling all tasks; a heart of perseverance, accumulating embellishing virtuous practices; a heart of great courage and strength, crushing all armies of demons; a heart acting according to truth, extinguishing all afflictions; a heart of non-regression, never ceasing until enlightenment is reached; a heart of inherent purity, knowing the mind is immovable, not having any attachments; a heart of knowledge of sentient beings, adapting to their understandings and inclinations to emancipate them; a heart of great kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, leading into the way of enlightenment, knowing the various understandings and inclinations of sentient beings, and saving them without using separate paths; a heart of emptiness, signlessness, wishlessness, and non-fabrication, seeing the characteristics of the triple world without grasping them; a heart adorned with an indestructible supreme treasury of marks of felicity, thoroughly invulnerable to all demons. Based on these 10, enlightening beings can attain the supreme heart of the treasury of light of great knowledge of Buddhas. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of armor. They wear the armor of great benevolence, rescuing all sentient beings. They wear the armor of great compassion, enduring all suffering. They wear the armor of great commitment, fulfilling all their tasks. They wear the armor of dedication, constructing the adornments of all Buddhas. They wear the armor of virtue, benefiting all sentient beings. They wear the armor of the ways of transcendence, liberating all conscious beings. They wear the armor of wisdom, destroying the darkness of affliction of all sentient beings. They wear the armor of skill in means, generating universal roots of goodness. They wear the armor of the firm stability and freedom from distraction of the mind of universal knowledge, not enjoying other vehicles. They wear the armor of single-minded certainty, free from doubts and confusion in regard to all things. Based on these 10, enlightening beings can wear the supreme armor of Buddhas and crush all demon armies. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of weapon. Giving is a weapon of enlightening beings, destroying all stinginess. Self-control is a weapon of enlightening beings, getting rid of all crime. Impartiality is a weapon of enlightening beings, removing all discrimination. Wisdom is a weapon of enlightening beings, dissolving all afflictions. Right livelihood is a weapon of enlightening beings, leading away from all wrong livelihood. Skill in means is a weapon of enlightening beings, manifesting in all places. In general, all afflictions such as desire, wrath, and folly are weapons of enlightening beings, because they liberate sentient beings through afflictions. Birth and death is a weapon of enlightening beings, because they continue enlightening practices and teach sentient beings. Teaching the truth is a weapon of enlightening beings, able to break up all clinging. All knowledge is a weapon of enlightening beings, because they do not give up the avenues of practice of enlightening beings. Based on these 10, enlightening beings can annihilate the afflictions, bondage, and compulsions accumulated by all sentient beings in the long night of ignorance. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of head, the head of nirvana, as no one can see the top. The head of honor, respected by all humans and celestials. The head of universal higher understanding, being supreme in the universe. The head of foremost roots of goodness, honored by the sentient beings of the 3 worlds. The head bearing sentient beings, developing an indestructible crown. The head of not despising others, in all places always respectful. The head of transcendent wisdom, nurturing all virtuous qualities. The head of union of knowledge and skill in means, everywhere appearing in compatible forms. The head of teaching all sentient beings, taking all sentient beings as disciples. The head of preservation of the eye of reality of Buddha is able to perpetuate the seeds of the 3 treasures. Based on these 10, enlightening beings can attain the supreme head of knowledge and wisdom of Buddhas. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of eye, the flesh eye, seeing all forms. The celestial eye, seeing the minds of all sentient beings. The wisdom eye, seeing the ranges of the faculties of all sentient beings. The reality eye, seeing the true character of all things. The Buddha eye, seeing the 10 powers of the enlightened. The eye of knowledge, knowing and seeing all things. The eye of light, seeing the light of Buddha. The eye of leaving birth and death, seeing nirvana. The unobstructed eye, its vision without hindrance. The eye of omniscience, seeing the realm of reality in its universal aspect. Based on these 10, enlightening beings attain the eye of supreme knowledge of Buddhas. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of ear, hearing the voice of praise, they eliminate craving. Hearing the voice of criticism, they eliminate anger. Hearing explanation of the 2 lesser vehicles of individual salvation, they do not cling to or seek them. Hearing of the path of enlightening beings, they rejoice greatly. Hearing of places of pain and trouble, such as the hells, they arouse great compassion and make vows of universal salvation. Hearing tell of the wonderful things of the human and celestial worlds, they know they are impermanent phenomena. Hearing praise of the virtues of Buddhas, they work diligently to quickly fulfill them. Hearing tell of such practices as the 6 ways of transcendence and 4 means of integration, they determine to practice them and reach their ultimate end. Hearing all sounds of the world, they know they are all like echoes, and penetrate untold profound meanings. Great enlightening beings, from their first determination until they reach the sight of enlightenment, always hear the true teaching, yet do not give up the work of transforming sentient beings. These are the 10. If enlightening beings accomplish these things, they will attain the supreme ear of great wisdom of Buddhas. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of nose. When they smell foul things, they do not consider them foul. When they smell fragrances, they do not consider them fragrant. When they smell both fragrance and foulness, their minds are equanimous, abiding in relinquishment. If they smell the fragrance and foulness of people's clothes, bedding, or bodies, they can discern their conditions of greed, anger, and delusion. If they smell the scents of hidden repositories, plants and trees and so on, they can discern them as if they were right before their eyes. If they smell scents from the hells below to the heavens above, they know the past deeds of the beings there. If they smell the fragrance of generosity, morality, learning, and wisdom of Buddha's disciples, they remain steady in the will for omniscience and do not let it be distracted. If they smell the fragrances of all enlightening practices, they enter the state of Buddhahood by impartial wisdom. If they smell the fragrance of the sphere of knowledge of all Buddhas, they still do not give up the practices of enlightening beings. If enlightening beings accomplish these things, they will acquire the infinite, boundless nose of Buddhas. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of tongue, a tongue that reveals and explains the acts of infinite sentient beings. A tongue that reveals and explains infinite doors to truth. A tongue that sings the praises of the infinite virtues of Buddhas. A tongue of infinite eloquence. A tongue that expounds aids to the path of the great vehicle. A tongue that covers all space. A tongue that illumines all Buddha fields. A tongue that awakens the understanding of all sentient beings. A tongue that causes all to praise the Buddhas. A tongue that defeats all demons and false teachers, destroys all afflictions of birth and death, and fosters arrival at nirvana. If enlightening beings accomplish these things, they will acquire the supreme tongue of Buddhas which covers all Buddha lands. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of bodies. Human bodies to teach humans. Non-human bodies to teach denizens of hells, animals, and hungry ghosts. Celestial bodies to teach the beings of the realms of desire, form, and formlessness. Learners' bodies to demonstrate the stage of learning. Non-learners' bodies to demonstrate the stage of sainthood. Individual illuminates' bodies to teach the way to enter the stage of individual enlightenment. Enlightening beings' bodies to foster the accomplishment of the great vehicle. Buddha's bodies, anointed by the water of knowledge. Mentally produced bodies, generated by adaptive skills. The uncontaminated reality body, effortlessly manifesting the bodies of all sentient beings. If they accomplish these, they attain the supreme body of Buddhas. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of mind, a mind of leadership, generating all roots of goodness. A stable mind, with profound faith steadfast and unwavering. A mind of profound penetration, understanding in accord with the teachings of Buddhas. A mind of insight, knowing the mentalities of all sentient beings. An undisturbed mind, not adulterated with any afflictions. A clear, clean mind, which externals cannot stain or adhere to. A mind observing sentient beings well, not missing proper timing in dealing with them. A mind choosing well what to do, never making a mistake anywhere. A mind closely guarding the senses, taming them and not letting them run wild. a mind skilled in entering concentration, entering deeply into the concentrations of Buddhas without egoism or selfishness. Based on these 10, enlightening beings can attain the supreme mind of all Buddhas. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of action: hearing the teaching, out of fondness for truth; expounding the teaching, to benefit sentient beings; getting rid of covetousness, anger, delusion, and fear, by taming their own minds; action in the realm of desire, to teach beings in that realm; concentrations in the realms of form and formlessness, to foster quick return to non-contamination; aiming for the meaning of the teaching, to quickly attain wisdom; action in all realms of life, to freely edify sentient beings; action in all Buddha lands, honoring all Buddhas; nirvanic action, not cutting off the continuity of birth and death; fulfilling all qualities of Buddhahood, without giving up application of the principles of enlightening beings. Based on these 10, enlightening beings can achieve the action of Buddhas that has no coming or going. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of abiding: abiding in the will for enlightenment, never forgetting it; abiding in the transcendent ways, not tiring of fostering enlightenment; abiding in the teaching of truth, increasing wisdom; abiding in dispassion, realizing great meditational concentration; abiding in conformity to universal knowledge, austerity, contentment, moderation in food, clothing, and dwelling, and getting rid of evil, because few desires means few concerns; abiding in deep faith, bearing the true teaching; abiding in the company of the enlightened, to learn the conduct of Buddhas; abiding in generation of spiritual powers, to fulfill great knowledge; abiding in attainment of acceptance, fulfilling the forecast of enlightenment; abiding in the sight of enlightenment, fulfilling power, fearlessness, and all aspects of Buddhahood. Based on these 10, enlightening beings can reach the Buddha's supreme abiding in omniscience. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of sitting: the sitting of universal monarchs, promoting all virtuous behavior; the sitting of guardian deities, independently establishing the Buddha teaching in all worlds; the sitting of Indra, king of gods, being superior lords of all sentient beings; the sitting of Brahma, being in control of their own and others' minds; the sitting of lions, being able to expound the truth; the sitting of right teaching, holding forth by means of mental command and intellectual powers; steadfast sitting, vowing to reach the ultimate end; the sitting of great benevolence, bringing happiness to all evil sentient beings; the sitting of great compassion, tirelessly enduring all pains; adamantine sitting, conquering demons and false teachers. Based on these, enlightening beings can attain the Buddha's supreme sitting of true awareness. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of reclining: the reclining of silent tranquility, because of practicing in accord with principle; the reclining of concentration, because of body and mind being supple; the reclining of Brahma, because of not disturbing self or others; the reclining of good works, because of having no regrets afterward; the reclining of true faith, because of being unshakable; the reclining of the right path, because of awakening by good companions; the reclining of sublime aspirations, because of skillful dedication; the reclining of completion of all tasks, because of having accomplished all that is to be done; the reclining of relinquishment of all effort, because of thorough training. Based on these, enlightening beings can attain the supreme reclining of the great teaching of Buddhas and be able to awaken all sentient beings. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of abode. The abode of great goodwill, being impartial toward all sentient beings. The abode of great compassion, not slighting the uncultivated. The abode of great joy, aloof from all vexations. The abode of great equanimity, regarding the created and uncreated equally. The abode of all transcendent ways, being led by the aspiration for enlightenment. The abode of universal emptiness, by virtue of skillful analysis. The abode of signlessness, not leaving the absolute state. The abode of wishlessness, examining the experience of taking on life. The abode of recollection and awareness, by virtue of full development of recognition of truth. The abode of equality of all things, by virtue of having gained the prediction of Buddhahood. Based on these 10, enlightening beings can reach the supreme abode of Buddhas where there is no obstruction. Great enlightening beings have 10 kinds of sphere of action. They take right mindfulness as their sphere of action, as they fulfill the points of mindfulness. They take all realms of being as their sphere of action, as they become truly aware of the implications of the teaching. They take wisdom as their sphere of action, gaining the joy of Buddhas. They take the transcendent ways as their sphere of action, as they fulfill omniscience. They take the 4 integrative practices as their sphere of action, as they educate sentient beings. They take birth and death as their sphere of action, as they accumulate roots of goodness. They take bantering with all sentient beings as their sphere of action, as they teach them according to their needs and cause them to become free. They take spiritual powers as their sphere of action, as they know the realms of the senses of all sentient beings. They take skill and means as their sphere of action, uniting them with transcendent wisdom. They take the sight of enlightenment as their sphere of action, as they attain universal knowledge, without stopping the practices of enlightening beings. Based on these 10, enlightening beings can reach the supreme sphere of action of great wisdom of Buddhas. Continue to video 9.